Hey guys, before I begin, I'd just like to say thank you for choosing to listen to this webinar on my personal journey with type 2 diabetes and how I came to devising a master plan that I built by using frameworks based on client experiences. This webinar is dedicated to that journey and how I learned to reverse my mum's type 2 diabetes. I have created this webinar as a video and also as an MP3 download, so you can just listen to my story in most audible situations. One final thing before I start. If you suffer from type 2 diabetes, then I just want to ask you two questions. How long has this problem been going on for? And if so, has it been affecting your life? Do you plan to fix it? If you're serious about reversing your type 2 diabetes, this webinar is for you. So guys, welcome to my Diabetes Reversal Master Plan. If you're joining me on this webinar, then you may be a type 2 diabetic or someone who has been diagnosed with either high blood sugar or perhaps even type 2 diabetes. In this webinar, I'm going to teach you how to reverse your type 2 diabetes through my Diabetes Master Plan. This means that by the end of this presentation, you'll have a better understanding of the disease, and also I'm going to convince you that diabetes is completely curable without having to take any medication, insulin, or follow a strict diet. So I want to make a prediction, and if I'm wrong, then I'm sorry, but if I'm right, then I want you to watch this webinar until the end, because this webinar could be for you. For those of you who are either suffering with high blood sugar or pre-diabetes, or perhaps even full type 2 diabetes, I'm going to predict that you have tried or are currently doing between 1 and 3 things. Any of those could be medications such as metformin, which we will be talking about today, or you could be possibly taking insulin. Also, you have tried a strict diet such as the keto diet or something similar, and you may be a diabetic naysayer. And if that's you, then firstly, welcome. And secondly, that's great because you are my toughest audience to convince. Why? Well, quite often you may feel that medication is the only cure, that medical science is the only way forward, and perhaps anything such as curing your diabetes through diet is a new age, hippie, hocus pocus thing. Then I want you guys especially to keep watching, because by the end of this webinar, you're going to be convinced otherwise. I can guarantee you that. I'm going to allay these falsehoods to you through the clients that I have worked with and their stories, and I feel that these stories must be told. By the end, I hope you have a clearer understanding of the disease and how it can be treated properly with the correct plan. And if that doesn't convince you to stay, then let me just say one more final thing. If you have been in a waiting room, a doctor's office, or a nurse's clinic waiting on blood test results, nervous about the outcome, what the change will be for you once you get those results, I know that exact feeling. I had to endure that with my mum and support her through that journey every step of the way, which is why I'm here. I'm going to share my journey with you, build your confidence, and tell you the story from my viewpoint. Not only that, but I am going to share with you the blueprint of how I cured my mum's type 2 diabetes using a program I designed through trial and error. I call this program the Diabetes Reversal Master Plan. In this master plan, I'm going to share with you the frameworks to success when reversing this widespread disease. Now, I'm guessing for a lot of you that this probably isn't your first webinar, but the first thing that I'd like to mention is that if you feel that you failed at losing weight, trying to reverse your diabetes, or your dieting plans have failed in the past, this isn't your fault. There's a lot of information out there and it can be confusing. Many times that information overload keeps you from the success that you desire, but it's okay. I'm here to teach you my new strategy and I want to help you succeed. If you've been concerned in the past and that's led you to try to tackle diabetes by yourself or even with help, you may feel that you just can't succeed, or perhaps this is your first time tackling the disease. If so, then I want to put those fears to rest. With my help, diabetes is curable and you can do this. You just need the right person to explain it to you, and that's what I'm here to do. Now, big pharmaceutical corporations, doctors, and so-called experts want you to think that you need to take a lot of medication, or perhaps some fancy dieting aid or extreme diet to be successful in diabetic reversal and weight loss management. I'm here to tell you that they're wrong. Pharmaceutical companies, the doctors that they employ, the drugs that they sell are all reasons why they are wanting you to think that diabetes is a disease that's irreversible, but that's just not true. It's completely reversible, and I'm going to show you how. So if you've ever thought that big pharma, food companies and doctors want you to take this magic pill so that your diabetes will go away, and you suspect that's not actually correct, you are absolutely right. The drugs and hormones that they sell don't benefit you by reversing your diabetes. They actually want to keep you in poor health and in need. The difference with the Diabetes Masterplan is that as a coach, I actually care about my clients' success, their health, and I truly want to see them living the life of their dreams. Regardless, even if you're not a client, I feel that this webinar could be the starting point to your transformation, a new beginning. So that's what we're here to do. I know you have a dream to change the outlook of what diabetes can do if it's not taken seriously. You can make an impact on your life, and I want to show you how to make that impact during this webinar. So let's break it down for you a little bit further. This webinar presentation is designed for two types of people. The first person watching this webinar is specifically looking to lower their blood glucose. They may have been recently diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, or perhaps they're even pre-diabetic. The second individual is looking for answers to help reverse their type 2 diabetes, reduce or get off their medication, or stop the hormonal treatment, insulin, through addressing their diet and also their lifestyle. You may feel that you fall into both categories, which is absolutely fine. I can support both types. From this presentation, you'll get a breakdown of how I achieved successful diabetes reversal, and as a side effect, my clients achieved massive weight loss through my diabetes reversal master plan. I will be uncovering how I reversed diabetes for not only a close family member, but also many successful client case studies, including stories and testimonials to their diabetes journey. By the end of this presentation, you will have a greater understanding of diabetes, how it can be reversed through proven methods, backed up by research and client success. At the end, you'll also be able to download my 5 columns of personal health scorecard. Now, this scorecard will help map out your personal health history and also your goals to help structure your diabetes reversal journey. You can, at the end of this webinar, if you wish to, also email me the scorecard, and I will personally review it for you and give you my personal feedback completely free of charge. My goal is to get you to believe that the Diabetes Master Plan is the key to unlocking a cure for your diabetes by reversal. I'm going to show you my proprietary frameworks that will get you that result. In this webinar, you will be taken on a short journey with me and discover the exact way I came up with this framework to reversing type 2 diabetes, using my client stories as the example and how I achieve success with those clients. As I go through this personal journey with you, you will also get a much better understanding of what diabetes is and how I coach people to reverse it. I promise you, you won't be disappointed. And finally, for me personally, it's my goal by the end of this presentation for you to have a much greater understanding of how to reverse diabetes and lower high blood sugar. It's also my goal to get you to believe in my diabetes master plan, as that is the key to unlocking a cure for your diabetes. Also, if you download my free scorecard, as I mentioned before, from the website page, or by clicking the link in the description box below, you will be offered a chance to join me on my next diabetes reversal master plan. This is the only plan that is designed to reverse your diabetes completely, proven to lower blood sugar and lose weight, all guided by me as your coach, and it's on a one-to-one basis. I can't wait to share this journey with you, and I hope you enjoy the webinar presentation. Let's get started. So for the past few weeks, I've been writing this webinar on my personal journey with diabetes and how I created a diabetes master plan that I have used with diabetic clients over the past 2 years. This diabetes reversal master plan was created by me to answer one question: how do I reverse my mum's diabetes? So I thought I'd share my journey with you, but let me give you a quick backstory, guys, so that I can bring you up to speed. So in my day-to-day work, I'm a personal trainer and also a nutrition coach. But at the time, I wasn't an expert in diabetic medicine or even knew how to begin to reverse someone's diabetes or even reverse a disease. Now, you may ask, why did I want to learn how to reverse this disease? Well, basically because my mum at the time had been recently diagnosed with diabetes, which was a crushing fact to learn, as she was newly retired and looking forward to her retirement after working a stressful job in the UK health sector. I was struggling to find a way to help my mum deal with her diabetes. I had helped people to lose weight before, but I felt completely lost and frustrated that I didn't know what to do in order to be able to help her. I had studied nutrition for many years, been on courses, and also I had some good results with clients wanting to lose weight in my role as a personal trainer. But this was different, and to be honest, I felt completely out of my depth and scared for my mum's well-being and also future outlook. My main focus was that I wanted to put an end to this problem of type 2 diabetes. As my mum's only son and closest family member, I felt responsible to help her as she had helped me in the past, and I knew through reading about reversing diabetes through diet and also through nutrition that I could reverse and stop this disease, but at the time I had no clue. And my biggest challenge was, where do I start? Do I need to attend a course? Are there professionals or sufferers with this disease that I can ask for help? Where do I begin? These were the questions that were constantly on my mind. All I knew was that I had to help my mum overcome this disease. She had always been there for me, and I think we can all relate to wanting to help our parents when they are in need of support and help. So here it goes. This is how I created a master plan to reverse diabetes for my mum and eventually others, helping them to achieve success in curing diabetes, one person's journey at a time. So here's what they don't tell you. Just to give you an idea of how prevalent diabetes has become over the last few decades, the disease has risen exponentially since the 1980s. America has the largest problem with diabetes, and in this country alone, the disease has spiked dramatically from just over 5 million to 22 million in the last 35 years. For me, as a son, I felt I couldn't help my mum with her health, and I was in the health and fitness industry. Surely I was the person to help support her. However, I can remember that for her, the struggle was the mental pain of having to take a drug that she didn't want to take, and would also do anything in her power if it meant that she could come off the medication and escape the frustration of having this disease. When you're faced with a health issue, it clouds your judgment of the future. And in my experience, working with her and also with clients, you quickly get a sense that the individual can't focus on anything else. Externally, the struggles were overwhelming and obvious to see. It was the idea of taking the medication that affected her confidence. I can remember quite clearly my mum discussing with me that she hated taking the medication, hated swallowing the pill and having to rely on something that she felt she had no real control over. She was diagnosed so quickly and we were both left with questions, and that made it difficult to see a way out of this situation. For those who suffer with type 2 diabetes, it can be daunting, as although the disease is quite common, there isn't a lot of information around helping to understand the diabetic medication, also the side effects of the disease, and how to at least better control the problem of diabetes. Among the side effects were slightly difficult to see at first. To anyone who met her, you'd be hard-pressed to find something wrong, but with hindsight, her main issue was her eyesight. Her eyesight was getting worse, and later we were told that this was a side effect of the disease, whereas we thought it was initially age-related. One thing that you need to look out for with this disease is that, like my mum, your weight, specifically your waist circumference, is a big factor when assessing diabetes. A larger midsection relates to more abdominal fat, which can reflect more organ fat. What you may or may not know is the toll of the disease takes years off of your life. For a person who is diagnosed with diabetes at the age of 30, even with medication, can expect to see a 13 to 20 year life lost, resulting in earlier death. So as a result of the diabetes, my mum was put on a drug called metformin, which is quite a common drug that controls type 2 diabetes. We were told that she needs to be on a medium to low dose of that drug, and that as long as she stayed on metformin, the diabetes would remain under control. Other than that, they didn't seem to have much more support from any medical profession or institution, even when it came to a specific diet to follow, or even just basic nutrition advice. There was nothing. When we tried other forms or means of action to try to understand the disease better, we constantly hit a wall. We tried a nutrition coach who tried constantly removing things out of her diet until she was left with little or nothing to choose from and nothing to eat. Her meals were boring and also quite poorly designed. We tried herbal remedies for around 6 to 8 months. Although these were holistic in nature, they showed no positive results whatsoever. We tried different diets, which was difficult for my mum as she's a vegetarian, so meat isn't really much of an option. Sugar-free foods were often highly processed. Fat-free foods and weight loss courses that weren't really specific to diabetes completely failed, and she didn't even lose weight on them. I soon realized that I had to find something for her that did work, a structured plan for her to follow, and I knew I was going to have to do the research myself. And bit by bit, I built a strategy and framework for my mum to reverse and cure her diabetes. What we had didn't work for us, so my plan was to create something that did work for her. I didn't know how, but I knew that there was a way to reverse diabetes. What you may not know about metformin is that although in many ways metformin is a medication that can buy time for sufferers with diabetes and enable them more time to cure or reverse their disease if treated properly, what metformin does is to act by reducing the amount of blood sugar in the body. It does this by decreasing the amount of glucose, or sugar, produced by the liver, and also the availability of glucose from the individual's dietary intake. This means that the hormone insulin can be regulated and controlled better by the pancreas organ. So, to reflect, my mum had been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and she and I both got crushed after receiving that terrible news that she was going to have to take diabetic medication, possibly for the rest of her life. Although the side effects of the disease were not as aggressive as some, I would say that dealing with this disease filled her with anxiety, and it was the medication that affected her confidence the most. My mum had quite literally gone from being a confident, outgoing woman to a person who felt lost and blamed herself for diabetes. She didn't want to take any medication or drug. The key to my mum taking a positive turning point with this illness is that she did want to improve her health and her lifestyle. Over 18 months passed, and after many failed attempts at trying to help my mum resolve the disease, including regular blood glucose level checks and diets, poorly qualified coaches and holistic remedies to try to bring the blood sugar levels back down to a more stable rate, we received a crushing blow. A doctor's appointment gave us the news that the blood sugar had continued to escalate and that she was going to have to take even more of the medication she already hated taking so much. I was crushed for her, and I needed to do something, and fast. I don't know what made me do it, but I acted on instinct and stopped the doctor's consultation mid-sentence. I remember it so vividly. What I said to him was, "Can I please ask you one thing before we go any further?" And he responded, "Of course. Can you give us 3 months to try to improve my mum's diabetes? I feel that she hasn't had the right support, and I've been doing some of my own research behind the disease, and I feel that with my right method in place and the support led by me, I can at least try to improve her situation. If she goes on yet more medication, it's going to crush her. I know that her diabetes can be better managed, but I feel we need to have another chance of trying to get her blood sugar levels back down." So the doctor pauses for a second and he says, "Okay, you have 3 months. If nothing has changed or I see little improvement, then I'm increasing her medication." At the time of my mum's news of yet more medication, this was the reality. As a diabetic coach, I can now shed some light on to her problem. Although I'm sure all of us love our mums as much as I love mine, my mum's weight was an issue and had been for quite some time. In reality, the lifestyle she had created over years was causing an internal problem called hyperinsulinemia, which is caused by too much rich carbohydrate-loaded foods, causing high amounts of the hormone insulin to be produced, and therefore high amounts of organ and body fat to be stored. Once we had the doctor's consultation and we had been given the chance to work harder on the opportunity to reverse my mum's diabetes, with me leading her as her nutrition coach, I then began to dive into research behind diabetes, reading books, listening to podcasts, and talking to anyone who either had diabetes or had perhaps reversed diabetes themselves. I went to forums, webinars, and I even called diabetic helplines. Because we both felt that we had been backed into a corner, I had no choice but to begin my own personal journey into researching the disease, looking at case studies and diets that had been successful to see if there were any similarities. I knew that I had to help my mum, but I knew that the answer wasn't just going to land in front of me. We were going to have to hunt it down, and we were going to have to work hard as time, quite literally, was against us. I can remember saying to my mum after coming out of the doctor's office, "Do you feel that this is the right thing to do?" And she replied to me, I don't really know, but I have to trust the process and I hope that it works. When starting my research for that process to work, I wanted to study dieting and nutrition more, mainly because I was a nutrition coach by trade and I felt that successful diabetes reversal was hidden in dieting. I mean, an unhealthy diet had got my mum to this point, so surely a healthy diet is what's needed to cure this disease. But where do you start? There are so many different diets out there, and it's impossible and exhausting to try them all. I needed some research to back my hypothesis up. There were two promising facts that I discovered that pushed me in the right direction. The first was that studies had shown that low-fat diets don't actually work. In fact, higher fat diets, higher fat intake, had shown to have more success with clients than non-high fat diets. The second was that ketosis was also having some benefits for people suffering with type 2 diabetes and also type 1 diabetic sufferers. Although I don't use the keto diet as a formula to cure disease, the research behind more complex carbohydrate and lower processed foods was the exact information I needed to support my hypothesis. The darker side to this journey is that there are cracks that a person can fall down if they don't tread carefully. What I mean is that the sad part about this is the rate of diabetes worldwide, and it's at an epidemic high. In the US and the UK, as well as other Asian countries such as Pakistan and India, diabetes is rife and can be as high as 1 in 10 people suffering with the disease in their lifetime. However, what is very concerning is the lack of awareness around the disease. When speaking to sufferers of diabetes, they had very little knowledge of what was actually wrong with their lifestyle and also their eating habits. They were just told to take a certain dose of this medication. In many cases, that medication was metformin and was a common theme drug. And then they were told to try to lose some weight. But that was pretty much it. What I wasn't expecting to find in my own research and journey into this disease is the false sense of security they had. For example, when I asked one man on a chat forum, "Are you worried about your diabetes?" he answered, "No, why would I be? The medication that I'm on protects me from the disease and I feel fine." What a large percentage of the people I spoke to didn't seem to realize is that the drug isn't a cure, but it's more of a buffer to stop the disease from getting worse in the short term. However, in the long term, most clinical studies show that the disease had still gotten worse over time and the amount of medication dosage had also increased. This meant that, in my opinion, and especially in my mum's case, the lack of information out there and the lack of coaching, teaching, apps and courses were only hurting her opportunity to reverse the diabetes. This is the point where I knew I had to specifically design something myself that would work for her and possibly others too. In 1921, a physician and chemist called Dr. Banting discovered the creation of insulin. When he licensed the hormone for pharmaceutical companies to use, he didn't patent the drug, citing that it's a life-saving drug and should be available to everyone. However, by 2012, in the US alone, it was estimated that insulin cost the country a whopping $6 billion. In 2013, a pharma company called Lantus grossed $7.6 billion in 1 year, and by 2015, the drug had grossed more than $23 billion from all pharmaceutical companies combined. The story doesn't stop there. It gets more complicated, which adds to the confusion when trying to correctly treat and deal with the disease. There are medications that cause weight gain, such as SUs, These drugs act to increase the production of more insulin, which lowers the blood glucose levels in the body. This, however, results in more weight gain, which leads to the outcome of long-term diabetes not being treated and cardiovascular disease becoming more rampant. These drugs, although still used today, show little long-term benefit. Medications that are weight neutral, such as metformin, act to block the liver from producing glucose, which then helps to maintain a neutral weight as insulin doesn't need to increase. So metformin doesn't increase weight, which is good, but still doesn't cure the root cause of the problem. Lastly, the medication that causes weight loss, such as SGLT2, acts to push glucose, which is sugar, into the urine, which effectively results in weight loss due to lack of glucose absorption. This particular category of drug has had a high success rate with weight loss, reduced cardiovascular disease, and controlling type 2 diabetes, although not curing or reversing it. So drugs and hormones used to cure this disease are not cures. They are lifelong commitments to an ever more expensive drug that will result in your diabetes becoming worse, if not rampant. Again, medication is not a cure. For my mum, the idea of not being able to reverse the disease felt like she was a failure. You have to imagine that as a single parent who worked full-time and ran a home on her own, she was looking forward to a well-earned retirement. As myself and my mum discussed one day sitting outside a coffee shop in her hometown, she admitted that she had eaten too much of the wrong foods, and that's why she felt she was where she was. Due to the lack of attention, she wasn't paying on herself, and instead paying closer attention to raising me and going to work, holding down a full-time job. I told her that all parents have to take great responsibility when it comes to their children, and her story was no different. You do the best with the resources that you've got. But, I said, we are where we are, and I feel the need to help you no matter what happens. We have to succeed at this. And I also feel that we will. All the evidence is there to prove that diabetes can be reversed. I just need to find a way to reverse it. If I didn't reverse it, my mum would be a diabetic for life, and her quality of life would get worse as time went on. I didn't want that for her. Also, I personally wanted to prove to myself that I could reverse this lifestyle disease if I set my mind to it. It was more than just righting a wrong. It was a sense of duty, a calling to answer a question that many people were talking about. How do I successfully reverse type 2 diabetes, and where do I start? I knew that if I could answer that question for my mum, it might also be the answer to the question for many other people also. Once I felt I had read through enough data on diabetes, at least to be able to form a basic framework to help my mum, it suddenly dawned on me that it was an opportunity for me as a coach to help guide others in their journey with fighting diabetes. From contacting diabetic helplines to sitting in on forums and sitting in on webinars, one thing became clear and was also a common theme. People are misguided and misled when it comes to treating this disease. Their lack of knowledge is purely down to the fact that the material just isn't available to them in a guide, or in my case, a coaching format for them to see results. This presented an opportunity that, if done correctly, could not only help others in long term, it would also give me the experience I needed to work with diabetic clients. I didn't realize it at the time, but the clients I would meet and help on this journey all helped me form the basic framework into a master plan to coach the people in reversing their diabetes. For me, my inspiration came from my mum. She has always been an inspiration for me. A single parent who worked all of her life, set good guidelines, and created a good home. Her guidance to me gave me the drive and focus that I have now for my business and also for my clients. However, my hero was now in trouble, and I felt like it was my duty to find a way to help her. It's not easy taking the reins of someone else's health, though. Part of you is doing the right thing. Another part of you is saying, why is there nobody to help us in this situation? What if someone told you that you don't have to take the medication, that it can all be reversed if you have the right master plan and coach that's going to get you to that destination with your health? I hope that you would say yes. Going back to the insulin story of 1921, when Dr. Banting created the artificial hormone insulin, I'm sure that he thought he'd made a breakthrough, using science to give people the chance to have a healthier life and cure the problem of diabetes. However, for both type 1 and type 2 diabetics, the overexposure to insulin comes at a high price. The cost of having too much insulin was causing type 1 diabetics, who often don't have common traits like the type 2 diabetics, in the way that they are not always obese and suffer from different symptoms, were now suffering from the same symptoms. Because type 1 diabetics were overdosing with insulin given by medical professionals supported by Big Pharma, they were now suffering with obesity, cardiovascular disease, and also metabolic disease, because the insulin was not the correct dose. In type 2 diabetics, insulin overdose meant that sufferers of the disease were now morbidly obese, with the rate of insulin-related deaths increasing. Too much weight was causing too many health issues. Strokes, heart attacks, and diabetic-related deaths increased with the overexposure to insulin. My moment of truth came when I had a conversation with a successful life coach who gave me my very first diabetic client. This was around the same time as my mum was starting her programs with me coaching her. A local life coach called Phil Toogood, who I had worked with previously, called me and said, "I've got this client that's really struggling with his weight, and he's just been diagnosed with diabetes." "Oh, really?" I said. "Yeah, he's absolutely beside himself as he'd lost his father to diabetes. He also doesn't want the same thing for himself, obviously." "Wow, okay. So what do you think he's going to do?" "Well," the coach said, "this is where I thought you could come in, Chris. I want you to coach him. And on top of that, I want you to make me a guarantee." "A guarantee?" I said. "What guarantee?" He replied, "I want you to guarantee that you will, no matter what, reverse this man's diabetes. I told him you are the diabetic guru and you are the guy who's going to fix this." So from there, I met my first diabetic client called Andy, and we began working together on his diabetes with a promise from me that I would reverse his diabetes through nutrition, no matter what. I remember this phone call really clearly because when I was speaking to Phil, I couldn't believe the coincidence. What are the chances of me working to get my mum's diabetes cured and then almost at the same time be given my first ever client who needed my help in his journey? Thinking about it now literally gives me goosebumps. To give a little bit of background on Andy's diet before he came to see me, Andy was a junk food junkie and he had the addiction to go with it. Every day he would eat and drink whatever snacks, fast food and sugary energy drinks just so that he could get through his day. A normal day would be a large latte filled to the brim with syrup and sweeteners combined with full cream, and somewhere in his Costa coffee cup was actually some coffee. Andy never prepared any food, so he would buy food from the local shop or petrol garage, which not only cost him a fortune, but would only fill him up for a few hours before he would have to go back and buy more chocolate bars and snacks to fulfill his appetite. Andy was consuming roughly 4,500 calories a day. And what's worse is that the food made him feel lethargic, bloated, and terribly depressed and also low. So, after working for months and months with Andy and also my mum, I came to a conclusion that there were 4 things that I found that were missing in their opportunity to reverse their diabetes. These were a lack of general knowledge and misconception around nutrition and diet, no support from medical experts and medical institutions, no goals or targets to reach for, or little to no understanding as to what they could achieve with the right coaching. And finally, no real structure or strategy to follow. Without a structure or master plan, they were free-falling and their diabetes was spiraling out of control. These simple, cool 4 steps gave me the idea to create a simple diabetic master plan that is easy, foolproof, and could be coached by me to anyone who had diabetes. Once I had come to the conclusion that type 2 diabetes was reversible if structured correctly for the individual, by creating this framework and developing it with clients over time, I was able to come up with the Diabetes Master Plan to cure diabetes using correct nutrition coaching, along with a personal diet structure. The new Master Plan gives you the opportunity to reverse diabetes completely and give you the correct information around nutrition and diet. Support from me as a coach and expert in diabetic reversal. This allows the client, in this case you, to have a goal and a structure to work from. The master plan that I have created gives you confidence and a healthier future. As the author of the Diabetes Code, Dr. Jason Fung said, diet does 95% of the work and deserves all of the attention. So, logically, it would be sensible to focus on diet. Exercise is still healthy and important, just not as equally important. It has many benefits, but weight loss is not among them. Exercise is like brushing your teeth. Understanding diet and nutrition are key to reversing diabetes, but not only that, the way to treat the disease of type 2 diabetes is to also understand your hormones and how they themselves are playing a huge role in trying to cope with diabetes. On my journey to finding a new framework where I could find guaranteed success, what stung me the most working with clients is that the medical institutions, doctors and professionals were all dealing with disease with hormone replacement or drug prevention, but they weren't dealing with the side effects. But the side effects that clients were suffering from weren't side effects of diabetes. The side effects such as constant urination, insulin resistance and obesity were in actual fact the body's coping mechanisms. So just to be clear, they weren't side effects, they're coping mechanisms. After a few months of working with Andy and my mum, I had enough information to be able to structure a framework for people suffering with diabetes. I had worked with Andy and my mum, but I needed to test the framework out on a new diabetic client. I already worked with a list of clients and was fortunate enough to have met John a few months before I developed this very framework I'm about to share with you. John had been diagnosed with prostate cancer some years before he had met me. The cancer had quite literally almost killed him, but he pulled through, and on the recommendation of another client of mine, John contacted me to see if he could get fitter and also stronger. Although the cancer was in remission, it had left him very weak, lacking in energy, and as a side effect of the drug he was taking, he developed type 2 diabetes. As I got to know John and continued to develop the framework around my diabetes master plan, I realized I could help this man and at least cure a disease that was unnecessary to live with. I sat with John and his wife and I explained that I had worked with clients and my own mother on their diabetes, and I had had some very promising results. Although my mother had not yet achieved full reversal of the diabetes, she had reduced her blood sugars down significantly, and we had booked a review with the diabetic nurse to see if we could lower her medication, which was metformin. Andy, on the other hand, had reversed his diabetes successfully, and at the same time, he had also reversed his clinical depression. As a side note, you can view the story of how Andy's clinical depression was reversed, and it can also be found in the book, You Can Live a Black Belt Life, by the author and life coach, Phil Toogood. Andy's diabetic story can also be found in this article from Diabetes UK, which I will post below to reference. John and his wife were very happy for me to help them, and I began to use the Diabetic Master Plan and framework with John. The program started with his current diet, looking into his nutrition. We then, over the following weeks, tested different foods and ways to lower his blood sugar step by step. What's really interesting about this particular case is that John was on a controlled cancer medication, one that he could not stop taking. But with my master plan and his trust in me to help me guide him to diabetes reversal, John actually reversed his diabetes blood sugar down to less than 5.8%, which is a fantastic result from a person who started with a blood sugar reading of 7.6%. This proved that my master plan worked, and I have continued to use this master plan with my clients from all across the world to this very day. Once I had gained the amount of experience I needed to fully understand how to treat, cure, and reverse type 2 diabetes, I then decided to make a strategy for the Diabetes Master Plan. It had to be able to work with anyone suffering with type 2 diabetes, understand what the medication they were taking, and to then get a full understanding of their lifestyle choices, habits around food, and what types of food they were choosing to eat. As I was building the strategy for the master plan, I realized that it came down to a few very simple things that were going to help me get an understanding of the client's overall health. The tools that I created for the master plan were answers to the original framework I had written down when I was working with John, Andy, and also my mum. So, for example, one framework would be a client needs to reverse their diabetes completely and they have the incorrect information when it comes to nutrition and diet. Therefore, in this scenario, I needed to be able to coach them in a step-by-step guide. I realized that everyone is different and learns differently, so I decided to teach them the process of getting to know the framework on a more personal, interactive level. Then I interviewed them, giving them the space to talk with confidence and talk openly. In these discussions, I would then get a good understanding of their food intake, previously failed diet attempts, what foods they enjoyed and what they liked to eat, and what type of lifestyle they led. Were they active, inactive, and things of that nature. Once I had fulfilled this strategy, I could then move on to the next phase of the master plan and begin to rebuild their life around their food and also coach them to better habits. By creating a framework into my master plan, I could then debunk these incorrect beliefs around diet and nutrition because they felt they could trust me, which led them to having more open discussion about their food, and we built a working relationship. As my client base grew in number, I added more and more to the framework and refined what I didn't need. Of course, this takes time, but it's worth it for the client and for the future clients I will be able to work with. The master plan really was taking shape. Every client I worked with saw results. For instance, when I started working with my mum, it took me 8 months in total to get her blood sugar below 6%. I know this because of the date of the doctor's appointment that I attended with her. With Andy, it was 5 months and we never used any drugs ever, but working for months and months on end wasn't quick enough. I knew that I needed to develop a way in which the master plan can lean down the cost of committing time to the program from the client's perspective as well as my own. How I did this was to go back to the 4 main key principles of the master plan. Firstly, reverse diabetes completely and give you the correct information around nutrition and diet. Secondly, support from me as a coach and expert in diabetic reversal. Thirdly, this allows the client, in this case that would be you, to have a goal and a structure to work from. And finally, the master plan that I have created gives you the confidence and the outlook of a healthier future. Once I had discovered this strategy of building a working relationship through coaching and consulting with the client, I could then begin to work on the desired result, which is to reverse diabetes for good, using their diet as the method and medicine to change the client's life forever. The master plan was a complete step-by-step framework that I could use with any client, and I put it to the test. Word of mouth spread quickly, and within 6 months, I had worked with over a dozen clients, all with type 2 diabetes, some at different stages of the disease, suffering with high blood glucose, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol. All the symptoms, including diabetes, were treatable and curable with the right combination of diet and nutrition, with the master plan leading the way. What was surprising to me and also humbling was that the master plan worked every time, because at the core of the plan was a framework to answer the questions that each individual client needs answering when it comes to type 2 diabetes. That framework was then developed by me, coaching them with a foolproof strategy. By devising a strategy for each framework, I could finally work with anyone who wanted to reverse their type 2 diabetes. Through this, I realized that I had to work with clients who not only suffered with type 2 diabetes, but really wanted to rid themselves of this disease, get off their medication or insulin, and gain the reward of having a clean bill of health. As I worked with more and more clients, I learned that there were other opportunities to develop this framework and devise better strategies to enhance this master plan. These opportunities came from the feedback that each client gave me at the end of our time working together. I learned that by asking simple questions to gain a better understanding did 2 things. 1, it helped me to do things better. And 2, by doing things better, I could provide a better coaching service to new and existing clients that wanted to work with me. However, the results that clients were getting were not only changing their lives, but also improving me as a coach and also improving the framework and strategies of the master plan. When I look back on this journey that I started with my mum needing to help and support to control and possibly reverse her type 2 diabetes, I realized that I am grateful for this opportunity. I'm grateful for the fact that I could not only help my mum, but also help others such as Andy and also John, all coming from different walks of life, at different stages of their life, but at a time when they needed the right coach with the right structure and the right framework. Some clients before meeting me had spent months, if not years, fighting an uphill battle with diabetes. Most of them were losing this battle. Each of them I helped, and in return, each of them supported my work and improved my master plan. So what was the desired result that these clients wanted to achieve? Obviously, diabetes reversal. To rid of or cure a disease that is often linked to obesity and poor lifestyle habits. Not that these individuals had not tried their very hardest before. What they needed was coaching, guidance, and also structure. What I wanted for them was what I wanted from my mum in the beginning, a life without any disease. And it's as simple as that. My mum was finally reversed and clean of her diabetes in 2021, after having been clinically diagnosed with diabetes for just under 2 years. Her blood sugar never rose above 7.2%, and her current reading is now at 5.7%, well below the diabetic threshold. I thought I knew it all when it came to nutrition and diet. But dealing with diabetes and helping others, including my mum, gave me a framework that produced a plan, a master plan, to be able to cure an individual of this disease. And by doing this, they had improved their lives. I had to change my outlook on diet rather than just knowing the basics of healthy eating. I had to understand food itself and the process the body goes through in order for it to achieve homeostasis once again. Now, as I tell you this story, firstly about the experience I had with diabetes and my mum, and then later working with clients who had diabetes, I wanted to tell you something that might very well surprise you. Before I started this journey with diabetes, I had two major beliefs that were completely wrong. Firstly, the drug metformin. Before I looked into diabetes and went on my own journey with this disease, I thought the same way as most people do. If you have diabetes, then you need to take a drug to deal with the side effects or the issues that the disease takes on your health. Metformin works by lowering the glucose inside the liver, which is the only organ that stores glucose, other than the muscles in your skeleton. By taking this medication, the liver no longer produces as much glucose. This then allows more insulin back into your body to be regulated at more normal levels. So, in a sense, metformin is helping to control the diabetes, but it's not a cure for it. If you took the metformin away, your liver would start producing glucose again and the blood sugar levels would start to increase. Therefore, metformin is not a cure for this disease. The second belief that I had around the disease was, again, incorrect. My belief was that you only get diabetes as you get older. I originally thought that only people of a certain age develop diabetes, and that's a sign of getting older. Diabetes is prevalent among all people, all populations, all countries, races, and cultures. It has no age limit, and it's not gender specific. So I was wrong to assume that diabetes could be cured by medication, where in actual fact, medical science hasn't actually provided a cure for diabetes, only a way to maintain the disease. Also, I was wrong to think that the disease is only prevalent in a few older people, where in actual fact, many hundreds of thousands of people suffer with it every single day, and that is regardless of age. My client Andy worked with me for several years. He reversed his type 2 diabetes through my master plan whilst being coached by me. He was 36 years old when he was diagnosed with diabetes, not even middle-aged. And that's a perfect example of how I too was wrong, misguided and misinformed about how widespread this disease can be. It's certainly one of, if not the biggest epidemic diseases throughout the world today. False beliefs are only going to make your chances of diabetes and weight loss become less of a reality. For example, the food industry has got a lot to answer for. For decades, they have been pushing processed foods into our bodies, telling it was low in fat, low in calorie, low sugar, and probably high in protein. But the majority of food that is marketed to us is pretty much junk. So I'd like to ask you the question, what do we need to break this cycle of poor food choices leading to poor health? Is it that you feel like you have beliefs around weight loss, dieting, or dealing with a disease like diabetes that is keeping you from reaching your success, and instead you're hitting a plateau? Are you still trying to find a cure, or are you trying to get a better result for yourself or your loved ones, like I did for my mum? When you're first diagnosed with diabetes, you have no idea what's in store for you. Questions you ask yourself: what are the side effects going to be? Am I going to feel ill or unwell? How is this going to affect my health overall? For my client Andy, he had already had first-hand experience of how diabetes can affect you and the loved ones that you care about. Before Andy's father died, he too suffered with type 2 diabetes. The disease took one of his father's legs due to gangrene, which was caused by the diabetes. His health significantly deteriorated, and eventually he became completely bedbound. For my client Amanda, her diabetes came from a mixture of bad lifestyle choices, too much junk food, too much stress, and yes, too much alcohol. For my client David, he had a heart attack at 52, and within 4 hours was lying on an operating table, having a stent fitted to his heart to allow proper blood circulation. And it took months for him to fully recover. During this time, he was diagnosed also with type 2 diabetes and was put on a low dose of metformin. Within 4 months of working with David, he was taken off the metformin and was declared non-diabetic with a blood glucose of only 5.7%. His previous reading was 6.7%, just over the type 2 diabetic threshold. Jane's story was slightly different for me as a coach because I came up against her practitioner, an arrogant doctor who was prescribing her diabetic medication. He outright refused to consider her eventually lowering the medication, which was metformin, citing that diabetes is too far gone and the fact that she was nearly 80, it would be impossible to reverse the disease. I don't know how many people realize, but they are victim to 2 enemies, and they are common enemies for diabetics. The first enemy is a lack of understanding this disease. The second common enemy is big drug marketing campaigns and giant pharmaceutical companies. Medication is a preventative, but it's not a cure for type 2 diabetes, yet they still insist upon giving drugs, keeping you diabetic, when the disease can be cured without medication. For Jane, I put her on a calorie-restricted diet and made her fast for 16 hours for 30 days. This helped to force her blood sugar levels down, and it also allowed for her to lose some weight as well as some water retention. Next, I wrote her a personal nutrition plan to help further reduce weight and reduce her high blood glucose even further. In 8 weeks, she had dropped 6 kilos or 13 pounds, reduced her blood sugar down to 7%, where it originally was at 11%, and her waistline was reduced by roughly about 6 inches. In my experience, the thing that I see most often is that people who are in genuine pain or suffering need the most care. They need help to get them to a place where their illness no longer affects them. But in order to get to that place, the person needs to help build that bridge, to make a connection between the 2 sides. And that's the way I look at my journey with helping those sufferers of diabetes. I myself was looking for an answer to cure my mum's diabetes, as I had heard and read that it could be reversed. I couldn't find the answer when I went to the doctors. All they prescribed was medication, and in their opinion, diabetes was not reversible. through diet alone. With my story and the client stories that I have shared with you, do you see any familiar examples in your experience with diabetes or perhaps obesity? My mind was changed completely when I saw the results of my mum and so many others once I had addressed their diabetic symptoms through a well-structured diet. The proof is in the dose of medication, and the medication was nutrition and diet planning instead of pills. Now, I believe that my coaching and diabetes master plan are helping to make a difference and build those bridges of better health for individuals to succeed in their personal health journey. I wanted to summarize a few key points for you. When I talk about or use the word framework in the presentation, I'm referring to the experience, knowledge, and epiphany I gained from my journey. I say this because it may not be clear to you that my journey with diabetes started at the beginning as a complete beginner. I called my coaching program the Diabetes Reversal Master Plan for one reason, because when my mum and I left the doctors that day, when we were told that we could have only 3 months to try to improve her diabetic readouts and try to find a cure, it hit me like a slap in the face. It's a master plan because eventually it will be the only way to correctly reverse, cure, and rid of this disease through my method, coaching, supporting and teaching clients who are willing to work with me and give me 100% of their commitment. What I would say to you is that testing your blood glucose levels is one way to measure and keep a record of your progress with your diabetes. So guys, I'd just like to quickly share some false beliefs that my clients had before starting this course with me. Before I started working with one of my clients, Phil, we had a discussion about taking on the master plan before it began. 2 of his main concerns were, do I have to vigorously exercise on this plan to help me lose weight? And the other concern was, I feel like I'm too old. Perhaps I just should accept my diabetes for what it is. The answer I gave him was no, you don't have to do any vigorous exercise when you are on this plan. Most of your success will come from the personal nutrition plan that I will design for you. Exercise does help, but vigorous exercise isn't actually going to help whatsoever. In fact, it may hinder. Now, the answer to the other question regarding your age is you're never too old. It's not about age, it's about quality of life. Your quality of life and the right to have great health should trump every doubt you've had in your mind. This too was the biggest fear I had when I was trying to reverse my mum's diabetes. Is this going to affect my mum's medication? And the short answer is no. Medication such as metformin works to relieve the liver of glucose, which stops the liver from being insulin resistant. This helps to lower and better control your diabetes. However, you still have diabetes. Yes, the medication is preventing it from getting worse and for the time being, but it's not a long-term solution. If I were to work with you, for example, and your goal was to come away from insulin, I would look to slowly take you off the hormone and to reintroduce metformin over time with the help of your blood work testing and also your doctor or physician. On a personal level, as a coach, there's something I'd like to share with you that's been consistently a worry for my clients when starting the master plan. When I've worked with clients in the past, my main objective as a coach is to be professional, and that is just a given. But also, it's about being a supporting figure, a coach who gives you the confidence because you are going on this journey, and that can be daunting at times. And to a degree, for most people who want to work with me as clients. So there are 3 common misconceptions that are holding a person back from learning about the structure and the framework of the master plan. The 3 misconceptions are Diabetes can be cured with medication, and once you have diabetes, it can't be cured. Although drugs do play a major role in helping to prevent further diabetic issues, such as damaging of nerve and tissue cells, loss of sight, and also eye damage, such as my mother had, metabolic syndromes, and also chronic cardiovascular disease, just to name a few, the reality is that if you are on diabetic medication, you are on borrowed time, and that's it. It doesn't cure the disease, only prevents it from worsening, and it will get worse over time. In a way, diabetes is a silent killer. It can remain with the individual for the rest of their lives, and if nothing's done to prevent it, it will knock off up to 2 decades of your life if diagnosed early on, and in the worst case scenarios can lead to gangrene and also amputation of limbs and also early death. Do you remember my client Andy? Well, one of the main reasons why he wanted to reverse his diabetes is because he lost his dad to the same disease, and his father was diagnosed in his mid-60s. His lifestyle and lack of addressing the diabetes eventually led to gangrene and then amputation of his leg. He was then admitted to a care facility and died due to diabetic and metabolic complications in his early 70s. So it proved to Andy that he couldn't relive the same outcome as his father did, especially as he would be leaving behind a wife and child. What the Masterplan does. This idea that diabetes can't be cured, however, couldn't be further from the truth. Diabetes can absolutely be cured with the right plan in place. In my Diabetes Reversal Masterplan, it's one of the core principles, if not only to lower the individual's blood sugar levels, but to completely cure the disease as long as the clients work with me and they follow my framework. As a benefit, the client also generally tends to lose weight, and the side effects that diabetes can bring are often completely reversed. The other benefit is that once we are on a course to curing the diabetes, we also look at taking the client off of their medication. And this involves us taking a medication review with a doctor, physician, or perhaps a diabetic nurse if you live here in the UK. This has been a reality for many of my clients, including Andy, John, David, Jane, and also my mum, who has been medication-free for over 3 years now. This means for them, no side effects whatsoever, no drugs, and no more doctor's appointments. And that is down to the Masterplan framework that I teach my clients. So, if you look back in time to an age where we didn't have processed foods and added sugar, processed oils and refined calorific foods, you will see that the rate of diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and metabolic disease were significantly lower than what they are today. It is no surprise that these diseases have come out of highly manufactured processed foods that deliver little nutrition, but do poison us from the inside out. However, how long does it take for the disease to take hold? Is it more likely that you would develop disease in later life? No, not really. When I first met Andy, he was diagnosed with diabetes at the age of 36. He had already lost his father to the disease, and he was struggling to find help or the right advice. With the foods that are being sold and marketed to you in today's age, it's easy to see why we are developing diabetes at such younger ages. We have become victims of our need for the quick fix, a sugary snack instead of a proper meal, no time to cook or prepare, and no idea of how to follow basic nutrition plans. If you look at this figure here, you can see quite clearly that diabetes has got no age limit. We are starting to see metabolic disorders in our children that we will no doubt lead to serious health complications in their future. Young adults are also being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes by the time they reach their late teens and also their early 20s. One core principle of the master plan that I teach with my clients is to give them the tools that they need to better understand food. But more importantly, I design your nutrition plan with you. We use the foods that you like and we build a meal plan that suits you. I don't use any pre-designed meal plans ever. They don't work. Each client needs to have a well-structured and thought-out meal plan with meal options that include the foods that they love. I know that this is the key to getting your diabetes cured, getting rid of medications and side effects, and to start to rebuild your life. Every client that I have worked with has been on a diet at one stage or another. We want to lose weight, tone up, and get a bit fitter. But the majority of diets available for achieving weight loss don't actually really work. And why is this? Because they restrict the person from eating enjoyable foods. There is little support given in the form of someone teaching you or coaching you on understanding the science of food, how to lose weight correctly, and worst of all, there is no real plan or end in sight for the individual ever. The diet is always great when you start, but as time goes on, the enthusiasm fades and you lose sight of why you even started. Now, does that sound familiar to you? Now, think about someone who tries to diet to reverse their diabetes. You think that weight loss attempts are bad. Try dieting for diabetes. Diets, especially those that are low in fat, are completely wrong for the individual who is trying to control their diabetes. Diets and weight loss plans are the exact opposite of fixing this problem. In fact, in my experience, they often make the diabetes worse because the blood glucose is not taken into consideration amongst many other factors. My master plan is designed to account for everything that you need to be able to control your diabetes. Heck, even your weight is significantly improved. But how do I do this? 3 simple strategies that are coached to you by me. I guarantee that it's only me that you will work with. Although I only have a limited space of 2 clients per month, I can guarantee that you will not be put onto some coaching plan with a team member or an unqualified coach to lead you through what can often feel like a maze when you begin. The Diabetes Reversal Master Plan is delivered to the highest level of professionalism and accountability on my end. All I need from my clients is commitment to follow their personalized plan and have the drive to succeed in reversing diabetes. So if you came to me with type 2 diabetes, how would it work in order to get a result? Let's say that the result you want is to lower your blood sugar and reduce your medication. I'll give you some real life answers to some of the problems facing my clients and how the master plan answers those problems. So a real life problem from a client of mine was that you can only develop diabetes later on in life. If I can reflect back on my very first client, Andy, for a moment, let's give you a brief narrative of his journey. Andy was looking to cure his diabetes. He had also lost his father to diabetes, but more importantly, he wanted to secure his future for himself and his family. He was given metformin to help control his diabetes, but he wanted a cure. His lifestyle choices were working to inhibit his condition. And Andy also was in his 30s when he was originally diagnosed. What I did for him using the Diabetes Master Plan. So we firstly set goals together. His goal was to reverse his diabetes and all of the diabetic side effects. I looked at his overall weight and took notes of his current diet plan. I then restructured his diet plan and coached him through his exercise regime and what foods he needed to improve on. I delivered his nutrition plan to him and revised it on a bi-weekly basis. And he was cured in a matter of months. We achieved his goal and reversed his diabetes through my Diabetes Master Plan. So another client's real life problem, medication and drugs to cure this disease. Let's quickly reflect back on Jane's journey with diabetes. So, Jane was in her 70s when she was diagnosed with diabetes. She was on a high amount of medication and blood pressure tablets. Her blood sugars were constantly spiked and erratic due to her eating and also her drinking habits. She had suffered with a number of strokes and had skin damage, including leg ulcers. What I did for her using the Diabetes Masterplan. Although Jane was in her late 70s and had been a diabetic for years, her goal was to reverse the diabetes. We worked hard together on her dietary intake, dietary needs, and also on her habits. We reduced her alcohol intake over time to create less stress on the liver and also the kidneys. Her blood sugars and blood pressure also normalized. And finally, her skin healed and her ulcers reversed. And finally, before I forget, she reduced her medication and now only takes a mild dose of blood pressure medication. We achieved her goal and reversed her diabetes. Third real life problem. Diabetes reversal can be achieved through dieting, including low-fat diets. So lastly, what I'm going to use is my mum as an example of success. She had slowly gained weight over years and had bad eating habits, along with poor choices of food. She had tried many different fad diets with no success. She had been on a low-fat diet for years, but still gained weight. She had been diagnosed with diabetes after taking retirement, and she lost huge amounts of confidence and hated taking the diabetic medication. What I did for her using the Diabetes Masterplan. So I re-educated my mum and the misconceptions about dieting and low-fat diets because they just don't work. I changed her nutrition plan and eating habits to ensure weight loss and lower blood sugar. I rebuilt her confidence through one-to-one coaching and working towards a realistic goal. She lost weight as a result of the master plan, and she was cured of diabetes through using the framework that I built within the master plan. All of these client success stories are testimony to the master plan and how it can work in any situation when dealing with diabetes. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to quickly break down the master plan for you guys to give you a greater insight and also an understanding. So I deliver a 10-week plan. Throughout my journey, working with clients to help them cure their diabetes, my biggest thing I had to work on was time. The reality is that diabetes is harder to reverse depending on the stage and also the age of the disease. So when I work with clients, it's over a period. That's how I can guarantee success for each person that I work with. We also do one-to-one coaching calls. Communication is a huge piece to the puzzle. In fact, it's the main piece. I have been working with diabetics for some years now, and the ones who have failed are the clients who've been distracted or just investing in communication. There's no guarantees in life, but what I can guarantee is that you'll get my undivided attention and support throughout. Also, we create a complete personal dietary plan designed for you specifically and for your needs. The biggest problem that I face as a nutrition coach is actually nutrition itself. Years of trying to get people to eat the right foods and seeing little to no success is not great when you're trying to get What I now do that's so different is that I take all of the food that you do enjoy into account. I create a personalized nutrition plan for you using those foods. Everything is tailor-made to you, including the exact macronutrients, which are your carbs, proteins, and fats, and also the calorie requirements that you need per day. Everything is accounted for. That's the key to a successful diabetes reversal. Another thing that the master plan offers you is help with creating meals, and also I make meal suggestions for you. The reason why I call it the master plan is because there are elements that need to be mastered. One of those elements that I had to master was learning how to create recipes for individuals. And I'll let you into a little secret that I haven't actually shared with any client before. I actually went on a 6 weeks cooking class course to learn better cooking skills. So that meant that I could understand foods better in how they're prepared and how they're created. This was the key element that I had to master for my clients. Now I can create personalized recipes for individual clients, all tailor-made and specific to their calorie and macronutrient needs. Another great thing about the plan is that you are allowed as many dietary revisions as you want. When creating a personalized dieting plan for clients, there's something I learned early on. People change their mind often and also a lot. So when a client is working with me, there's an unlimited amount of times you can adjust your dietary plan. Why? Because in order for the master plan to be successful, it has to work for you in order for it to get the results that you want. Also included in the plan are 6 individual 1-hour video coaching calls. Video calls are an absolute must. I've tried phone calls before and either I can't hear you or the signal drops out. You're paying for my time and my master plan. You want a result and I want to coach you to achieve that result. Video calling is the best way to communicate, which I've already stated is so important in this journey. As I stated previously, communication is the biggest key to our success in curing your diabetes and your health. And my success as a coach is to want to be able to help you to achieve your goal. And finally, what I'm really proud of is that there are 14 pre-recorded audio messages sent via WhatsApp or Messenger to help you on your journey. This is something I'm really proud of. And if I let you into a little secret, I actually stole the idea from another coaching course provider and I put a diabetes twist on it. When I started coaching people online, I found that the information that surrounded diabetes could be confusing for the client to comprehend with all of the other elements of the coaching plan we had to get through. So what I devised is 14 individual sound bites that were based on diabetes, habits, and also lifestyle choices. This means that you can listen to them whilst relaxing on the go or whenever you've got time. That also means that I can concentrate a larger portion of our time on the one-to-one coaching calls. As a side note, guys, each week I will be delivering one PDF booklet on eating, health, and diabetes. They're taking me hours to develop, and I usually sell these individually or as a pack for a value of up to about £180 or US dollars. However, I will include these in the course price at no extra cost. So let's quickly go through the sessions 1 to 6 over a 10-week period. In session 1, we discuss your goals, realistic outcomes, your biometrics, your weight and your diet, what foods you enjoy, including the styles of nationalities of food, what flavors switch you on, things of that nature. In session 2, I deliver the first draft of your personalized meal plan and we discuss what works, what needs changing, and coach your mindset to prepare you for the weeks ahead. Session 3, we review over the past week and we begin to discuss the fundamental basics of diabetes and understanding the disease better. Session 4, we discuss how you're finding the program, any changes that need to be made to your dietary plan, and we do a weigh-in, or we take a torso measurement for your waist and also your chest. In session 5, we begin to prepare you for your blood test and make any final changes that are necessary. We will review the previous 7 to 8 weeks, and by this time, you will notice your diabetes side effects changing for the better. Even weight loss can occur. In session 6, we reveal and review your blood test results, the big day and the final weigh-in. We take your results, compare them to your goals, your overall health indicators, and also, most importantly, how you feel. Now, I have been working, refining, and improving my diabetes master plan over the last 4 years now. And after all of that time, I have learned that nothing comes to you if it's rushed. The time and effort it has taken me to be able to deliver this webinar to you is something that I've wanted to do for some time, but I wanted to be able to deliver the best designed version of the master plan so that it's worth you investing your time, money, and energy. If you were to switch off now, what would you have learned? Nothing, because the story doesn't end here. The story continues with you. You could be the right client to work with, and the Diabetes Master Plan is the right coaching program to take you from diabetic to cured in a matter of weeks. As you may have heard me mention before, I can only work with 2 clients at a time. The reason being is that the coaching program is an investment for both of us, and I have to invest my time and energy so the program gets the results that you require. As a thank you for watching, I'm going to offer the course to you at a discounted price, and I'm not going to waste any more time keeping you guessing. My Diabetes Master Plan is usually $1,200 US or Great British pounds, but today I'm going to offer it to you at a heavily discounted price. All you need to do is fill in the PDF form, the 5 columns that make up your personal health on the website page, and send it to this email address below. If you're watching this video on YouTube, then I will attach the website and also the email information for you to send the PDF. To those of you who are perhaps sitting on the fence, I totally get it, but I don't want you to walk away empty-handed. I can't justify my coaching services to be any lower, but what I can offer you is my Nutrition Master Plan PDF bundle. The PDF bundle is designed to help your personal health by giving solutions about your health, your lifestyle, activity, mental health, and also medication. With regard to the 5 columns of health scorecard, I must also mention that all of your personal data is completely protected and will never be shared with anyone ever. After completing the 5 columns of personal health scorecard, you can submit the PDF to me via email and I will score it for you, giving you a brief outline of where you can improve and how you can achieve a better result. From there, we can discuss if you're serious about reversing your diabetes, which is actually a really important point to make. I only work with clients who are serious about their health. So I want everyone to succeed, but I can only support clients who want to achieve and take advantage of their health and their happiness. However, there is no obligation to joining my Diabetes Master Plan coaching program whatsoever. My coaching is based solely on care for my clients, and it's never a sales pitch. Speaking of investing, how many of you have actually invested in something that's for you? Not for your family, not your spouse, not your kids or your loved ones. Invested in something for yourself. Can you think of anything? Every Friday and Saturday evening for drinks and a meal. Wait a minute. How much is that costing you per time? Probably £80 per evening? Well, if you took one of those evenings and multiplied it by 4 weeks of the month, then that's almost the same cost as the master plan. Plus, you're not wasting your money on drinks and pub food, but reinvesting it back into your health. Now, when investing your time into your health, think of how long it would take you to learn what I know I can teach you in a matter of weeks. Some of you may have already taken steps to improving the diabetes, trying to diet or perhaps even exercise more, but has it worked? Are you free from diabetes or do you still have this disease? With the master plan, your time is no longer spent fumbling around in the dark, trying to find answers and not knowing perhaps where to begin. No time is wasted. I coach you one-on-one and I get results. It's imperative for me to get these results as this is my life's work and coaching you is my calling. When I started to invest my time into diabetes and understanding the disease, I did it because I wanted to help my mum, and I also wanted to help others. I had to put my money, effort, and energy to attain the results that I desired for my mum. I also desire them for you too, if you are willing to invest. Yes, of course, there is an investment of money, but I want to give you something in return that isn't just from the service that I provide. It's the fact that you will save money because you will save time. No more courses, fad diets that don't work, no more paying for expensive medications. Plus, in return of your investment, I'm going to personally guarantee you that if you are not happy with the results that you achieve by the end of the 10-week master plan, I will continue to work for free. That means that if you're not satisfied, then I'm not satisfied. And the reason it's so important to me, simple. It's my reputation and my livelihood on the line. And if I don't get you that result that you want, then what's the point? More than anything, when you invest in me as a coach, it's my job to help you reach your desired goal. Guys, I just want to thank you for your time. Thank you so much for listening to me. This is my first ever webinar, and I've spent weeks preparing for it. I hope that it has in some way helped you. And I also hope to be able to work with either you or someone that you know who has diabetes in the near future. Don't forget to download the 5 columns that make up your personal health PDF and get your scorecard marked by me completely for free. Any comments, please leave in the comment section below, and I will get back to you. Be fit, be healthy, and of course, be a boss,